Thank you all for coming out. Very excited to be here. Our first panelist, you may have seen his name on a sign or two. Jay Luchs, Vice Chairman at Newmark, may be best recognized for his for-lease and lease signs on buildings throughout Los Angeles. But the range in the industry includes representing some of the world's most notable fashion brands for their retail and office locations, entertainment companies and other businesses in finding their corporate headquarters, and for selling investment properties. Jay Luchs. Marineh Dermovsesian is the Associate Director of Real Estate at McDonald's USA. Her 25-year career in real estate started in-house at Fox Entertainment Group, where she ultimately served as the Executive Director of Real Estate and Facilities. After 8 years at Fox, she transitioned to the brokerage world at CBRE and partnered with a variety of brokers to manage various corporate accounts. After 14 years at CBRE, she left her post as Vice President and went back in-house with the Real Estate and Development Division of McDonald's. Marineh. Okay. And our final guest tonight, Josh Katzin. Josh is the Chief Investment Officer of Eldridge Acre Partners, a newly formed privately held real estate investment management firm. Eldridge Acre Partners was formed as a joint venture between Eldridge Industries and the former management team of ACOM Capital Real Estate. Previously, Josh was a managing director at Acor Capital, a leading commercial real estate finance company where he was responsible for the origination of transitional and construction debt in the western U.S. Prior to joining Acor, Josh was the Vice President of Acquisitions at Starwood Capital Group. Josh. So this was a really exciting panel event, and when our lovely host reached out and asked us to do it, we said, great, what do you guys want to talk about? What came back as feedback that they'd received from each of you was, how did you get started? How did you begin your career in real estate, and how did you ultimately achieve whatever modicum of success you have? So really want to start there, and Jay, we'll begin with you if we can. How did you get started in real estate? What was the first opportunity? What were your first steps?
Thank you, by the way. Thanks for having us. This is great, and appreciate everyone showing up. I mean, it's a nice, beautiful crowd, so thank you for being here and taking your time to be here tonight. I grew up in Potomac, Maryland, outside of Washington, D.C. I went to the University of Virginia. Funny story, we were sitting around as a group watching Melrose Place, the TV show back in the day, which a lot of people haven't heard of probably, and a lot of people have. And I got caught up in wanting to be in L.A., to get in the entertainment business. And I came out here for a week and left a resume at a company, and they Brillstein Gray Entertainment. So I came back, and that got me into LA. So I came out for that summer and ended up, I couldn't leave after the summer, could not leave. So for 5 years, I was in entertainment. And then my dad had been in the real estate business, and his father had been in it. And I tried to fight it because I didn't want to be the son of someone following it. And after 5 years, I just got into, I found myself in the real estate business. So it's a longer story, but that's kind of
inevitable path. There was never, now it got really entertaining, right?
Now every day is entertainment, but no one would understand that with the name real estate.
That's right.
But everything that happens is true content every single day. Different every day.
Tune in live. Josh, tell us how you got started. What was your first step?
So yeah, growing up, I really did not think that I was going to be in real estate. I definitely kind of fell into it to some extent. When I came out of college originally, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I got a job, which is a perfect job for someone who doesn't know what they want to do, which is I became a management consultant. Truly did not know.
You get a job telling everyone else how to do their job.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing, but you get to tell everyone else what they ought to be doing. I did that for a couple of years, and then I worked for a private equity fund after that. And then I went back to business school. When I came out, I just thought, like, when I was working in private equity, we were buying all these different businesses, but they were businesses that honestly I wasn't as fired up about. And we'd look at a lot of businesses, wide range of things. We would look at like, a frozen burrito making company, like a company that had like trawlers off in the North Sea, like just insane businesses. Okay. And I didn't care about any of them.
Those sound very cold.
Yeah. And so then when I came out of school, I actually did an internship, when I was in school at Colony Capital. And at the time I was like, if I'm going to buy something, it might as well be real estate. That's something that I thought would be more fun, and it kind of stuck. And so when I came out of school, it's been, straight shot since since then.
And Marineh, just tell us your story. When did you begin?
So I think I was a hybrid between these two gentlemen. I wanted to go into entertainment, and I didn't know what to do. So one of my coworkers, when I was younger, he said, I said, I want to apply to entertainment companies. I want to work in the finance department of entertainment companies. He said, okay, here's a website. So I emailed my resume to every single entertainment company I could find. And Fox called and said, you applied for finance, but that spot's taken. Do you want to do real estate? I said, sure. At Fox? Yeah, sure, you know. So I entered the real estate department at Fox, and I just managed to grow within the organization and the department through turnover and just, you know, being a go-getter and just wanting to learn more about the industry. And eventually, you know, I found my footing in real estate and then just grew within Fox and parlayed that into brokerage and then ultimately taking a position at McDonald's.
So let's go back to what you said of just proving yourself, differentiating. You know, when you were in, you now have an opportunity. You're a young person in the business. How did you differentiate yourself? What were some of the things you think back on, or what were kind of, you know, breakthrough moments for you?
I think the most pivotal moment, I think, was during my interview with Fox. So the woman interviewing me asked, you know, do you know this about real estate? And I said, no. And she said, do you know this about real estate? I said, no, because it's super important to be honest when you're interviewing or when you're speaking with people. I think if you dig yourself into a hole and then start drowning in it, you're going to get fired or you're going to have to quit. But at the end, she said, okay, do you have any questions for me? And I said, yeah. Am I going to be challenged in this position? And she looked at me and she said, that is a really good question, because I think I kind of flipped the script on her, saying, what are you going to offer me that's going to help me grow? If I'm just going to be stagnant, if I'm just going to be entry level, what's the point? So, and after the interview, when I was hired, she said that was the differentiating factor. Your question at the end of the interview of how are you going to serve me was a very important question to ask. And, you know, your honesty was saying no. At the level I was entering, you can learn, right? But she also knew that I needed a runway to grow. So it's super important to somehow lay that expectation for your future employer. Let them know that you don't just want to, you know, start there, you want to grow there.
Josh and Jay, either one of you, when you think about those early days in real estate or in your first career, when you're thinking about differentiating, trying to make an impression, trying to find a mentor, what were some examples or ideas that came to you?
Well, when I did start at a company called Epstein and Associates, and then I left it to go tech for a couple of years, and then I went to a company called Insignia ESG, which a lot of us do know and a lot of us don't. CBRE bought that company, and I was at CBRE for 12 years, and now I've been at Newmark for 11 years. I'm 35 years old. Anyway.
Precocious start.
I don't even know if I'm answering the question or not, but I had two bosses there who I randomly started working for. They were in selling office buildings, which is something I knew nothing about. But I was trying to impress them with being there. I'm not always on time, but I was definitely on time. Like, that was a job where I had to sit at a desk and be on time. Now my job is running around town and trying to make meetings on time, zigzagging through Los Angeles. But at that time, I was an assistant, and it was in 2001. And I was trying to impress them with my ability to go through all the things that they asked me to do, which was call upon owners and see if they would sell their office buildings and shopping centers. So if I'm answering it at all, it was just trying to impress them with caring, and that was that. And it goes a long way, because when you put effort into something and you don't try to skip. Today's world, I do see a lot of people, I think that it's a different generation, and to have someone in their early 20s come around and put in all the same kind of effort that we did then, we have it. In fact, some of them are in the room right now that work with me. But to have people really put in that kind of effort has gone away a little bit. So my advice is, the more you show and effort you show, it will go even a longer way in today's era.
I'll riff off that for a second, because you reminded me of an old story So I started in Dallas, Texas, and I do finance. So take people with money and people who need it and put them together. Had called on this guy for 6 weeks, and he had a maturing loan on this really interesting retail property that was going to be far and away the biggest deal I'd ever done. You look back, it was not a huge deal, but I was very excited about it. So get the opportunity, go out, kick butt, we do a good job, have a great outcome, and go to this closing dinner afterwards. And I'm sitting next to him, and there's a whole table of people, and I just, in this quiet moment, kind of talked just me and him. I was just like, again, like, thank you for this opportunity. I have to ask, why'd you hire me? Without breaking a sweat, he's like, oh, it's easy. You called 4 times. And I was like, sorry? Like, what do you mean? He's like, well, look, I'm a busy guy, right? And I get a lot of calls, and you were very polite, but it was a sales call. And I tell my assistant, my friends call, my family, grab me anytime for anything. If somebody I don't know calls me, make a note. And if they call again, make a note. If they call again, make a note. And if someone calls me 4 times, I think they're serious. And then I'll talk to them, and if they're interesting, I'll meet them. And if they're not, I'll say, hey, thanks, I'm not looking for anything. It always stuck with me. And there's that meme of the guy who's, digging the tunnel with the diamond like just on the other side of it that always drove me crazy. And to this day, I will stalk people because I'm like, maybe this guy's like a 50 call the guy. But I remember that being kind of that first opportunity, and that just, there was always this generational thing of like kids these days don't want to do it. He had that perception, thought that he saw something and gave me an opportunity. I'll never forget it.
I think grabbing the opportunity is just such a huge thing. It's like every once in a while in your career, something comes up and you have to make a call about whether you want to go after it or not. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I've just found that, different people solve for different things with like what they're looking for. Some people take a job because it like pays them the most or the most prestige or whatever it is. I've just always thought that getting in a position where you have the most responsibility that you can have is generally a good thing. The most extreme version of that for me was I was, fairly early on in my career, and I had done some international investing. And my boss came to me one day and said, our company is growing very quickly in Asia. Would you be willing to move? Because we need someone to kind of step up and move to the Hong Kong office. And at the time, my wife and I had just found out that we were about to have our first kid. And I was just thinking, there's no way in hell my wife's going to be up for this. There's no way we're going to do this. I came home that night. I was like, honey, actually, this crazy thing came up at work. And she was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. So we moved out, and I lived in Hong Kong for 4 years. And I can't say that I didn't stay there, and it's not like I made my career there. But I will say that, like, just the experience of having gone up there, I got to kind of a leadership position much more quickly than I would have anywhere else. And it was just like a willingness to give it a shot.
That's huge. So let's stick on this train of, so you get founded, you create a reputation for yourself, you go and you kind of start earning your stripes. What were breakthrough moments for each of you? What were times you go, moving to Hong Kong or taking a shot, moving in careers? What were those kind of big fast forward moments in your development?
I start? Well, I would say moving to LA, by the way, for anyone that's done it, that came from somewhere else, you've crossed that step in your own way. So that's for everyone in the room that's done it. Congratulations, because it's not for everyone. And here we are in the Directors Guild in Hollywood, right? It's like to think about that as a kid from Maryland, it just doesn't feel real, even today. When I was working for those people I was telling you about as their assistant at Insignia, and then it became CBRE in 2001 for 2 years, I kept driving past a building on Rodeo Drive that had paper in the window, and it had been Tommy Hilfiger, and Tommy Hilfiger, the company, was trying to sublease the space, but there was no sign, there was nothing, and I was very determined to figure out what was going on. But I wasn't in that side of the business yet. I was working for people in what's called investment sales. You buy and sell the buildings like these. What I do now is that, as well as repping fashion brands and finding stores for the restaurants and brands and corporate headquarters, whatever it is. A lot of fun stuff and a lot of, it's not all fun, but it's a combination. That particular building, which I kept driving past every day, was interesting to me. So I asked someone that I knew who knew someone at Tommy Hilfiger that introduced me to their lawyer. One thing led to the other, and they gave us the sublease of that property. It was not the biggest deal of my life because it was a sublease, and in the real estate business, you get paid on term, and you also get paid by the landlord. And when it's a sublease, everyone's looking to the other person. Well, we don't want to pay that guy. So it wasn't a big moneymaker, but I brought Brooks Brothers. Full picture 15 years later, Robbie Anderson, who I ran into today, who's a big Beverly Hills name from the Beverly Hills Hotel to land and whatnot, old name. He remembered me and had seen me grow from 2003. He hired me to be his leasing agent. We were talking to Apple. We were talking to a Tesla-ish type company, and then both deals went south. He said, put it on the market and sell this building. We were asking $300 million. I made $20,000, just so you know, on the deal many, many years ago, and I had to split it with my two partners and my company. It was not a fun deal. But many, many years later, I sold it to LVMH for $245 million, and that deal was my first entry into that world. And many, many years later, I made up for it, let's say. But things don't always happen right away. We all get, hit by that. But if you stick with something, and that's just a great full story. Even if I hadn't sold it years later, that was my first entry into Rodeo Drive, which changed my life.
Yeah, I would say for me, I have a very disruptive personality, and in the most positive way. I think when you're younger, on your report card, you get disrupts the class, or that wasn't me. I was kind of a nerd. But in life, especially for my own personal goals, I'm very disruptive. I like to shake it up. I don't like doing the same thing over and over again. So when the opportunity at McDonald's presented itself, I had never done retail real estate. I wouldn't even know where to find dirt or do anything. And again, once again, in my interview, I was pretty honest. But I did know one question really resonates with me when I make a decision, and it's, why not me? Why wouldn't you pick me? And if there's no reason you wouldn't pick me, then I go for it. So my theory with interviewing with McDonald's was, I have a foundation of real estate, I just don't know retail. And retail is just one component of real estate. So what I did is, again, I was very forthcoming in my interview, but I also knew what I knew. So with that, I was hired on at McDonald's about less than 2 years ago. An opportunity presented itself for a promotion about 5 months ago. Again, why not me? I knew, who I was up against, and I knew I was better. So with that in mind, I interviewed for the position, and my boss told me, well, you've only been here 9 months. And I said, yeah. So, I have 20 years of experience behind me. So what I would say, for me, watershed moment was that moment where I finally realized, why not me? Why can't I do this? And if the answer is there's no reason you can't, and you present yourself with the confidence of that, I think people will believe it. So that was kind of my watershed moment where it was like, let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? No? Okay. And I think working in real estate, I think you have to have that mentality. What's the worst we can hear is no. We hear no all the time, so it's not that big of a deal. So, yeah.
I feel like in the early part of my career, like a big watershed moment, or just kind of an eye-opening time in my career was the global financial crisis. Because really made a big mark, probably on all of us. And that was a big moment. I wasn't, I was somewhere early, mid of my career, I guess, mid. And it really was eye-opening how, like, so many people who were even huge names in the industry and, had done great things, when the tide went out, right, you kind of saw it. Like, there was just a lot of crazy stuff that went on in the period before that. And that, to me, was very eye-opening. What I took away from it is, like, you just got to figure stuff out for yourself. I mean, honestly.
You're going to use a professional term, but I
yeah, just almost went there.
Don't have a glossary.
But it's like, you just, honestly, nobody can give you the answer in this business or in life.
What year was that? The 2008?
Yeah, 2008 through 2012 was just like a bunch of distressed, and like the people's names that were on these deals were all really smart, really successful, like, and anyways, what I took away from that is, like, there's no, at the end of the day, just, go after it, and your gut, obviously being well trained and all that stuff, but, like, at the end of the day, you can't rely on anyone. Even the biggest names out there kind of have the same pitfalls, so that helped.
So, Marineh, a recurring theme that I'm picking up from your commentary is just knowing your value, projecting that, kind of teaching people how to treat you. So you guys have climbed to a stage in your career where you've got your feet set, you've got a foundation. Talk to us about some moments or opportunities where you had to go and stand up for yourself, or you had to defend your value proposition, or, go tell that boss, 9 months you can make like a human life. So why couldn't I be in a position to get a promotion? Like, would love some examples or moments when you had to go and defend the work you'd done.
There you go. Well, let's see. I'm going to defend my... I mean, there's things going on in my life even today. Like, a lot of what we do is fighting the fight. At the end of the day, I'm a real estate broker. No matter what I've done and what I think I've done, I'm a broker to some people. So there are those landlords and tenants and society that respects what we do, and there are some that don't. And in our business, you're dealing with landlords and tenants. A lot of things go in to make up a deal. It's rent, it's size, it's location. Sometimes it's landlord. Check the box. And not all landlords are experts in what we do. The funniest thing about it is they either inherited it or they bought it to make money from it or whatever goes on. But in the fashion world, the landlord doesn't know that Chanel does XYZ. It's not really about that. And we, as the brokers, have to get in their heads, and we kind of start to get into all the brands. There are respectful landlords and not some that aren't. So I would just say, to answer that question, there's even an ongoing, something I can think of right now in my mind where I'm like mad about something and I should just chill. But just you're not always going to be respected. So you have to sometimes fight for yourself. The biggest lesson I should probably learn is to chill, because if you go too far, you can upset someone, even if you know that you think you're right. So that's something I'm still teaching myself, and I'm a little guilty of sometimes sticking up for me, my team, the company, and the brokerage community, and that it will not always end well.
I feel like I did not understand early enough in my career how important just the broker community was. Not that I had, I get, like, as my career goes on and on, I just see how important those relationships are and how they follow you your whole career with people that you do business with. And I think your reputation matters, and you just can't overstate it. I know different people here are in different stages of their career, but like, I think you cannot say enough. Like, the early relationships that you make, you will have for your whole career, and people remember the good and the bad.
Yeah, I think you can make impact in two ways, positive or negative, and it is a very small world. Just the four of us here have, 1 degree of separation from each other for different reasons. I would say, to answer your question, Bill, I think it's okay to say no to people. I know it sounds cliche. It's okay to fire a client if they're mistreating you. It's okay. I mean, money is great. Commercial real estate is great. But there comes a point where, for instance, I had a client who would call me on vacation, would pick up the phone and say, if you don't call me in 5 minutes, you're losing this deal. And at a certain point, it's kind of like, that's not how you treat people. That's not at all how I want to be treated. And at the end of the day, that account doesn't mean enough for me to always be on edge or always be like, not like, it's not a good feeling to feel like that all the time. So at some point you have to put your foot down and understand that you and how you're being treated, because that person is never going to stop treating you like that. That client is never. That landlord will never all of a sudden flip the script and be a nice guy, So if you want to endure the abuse, go for it. But, a lot of times if you stop it, something else will come up for you in real estate. I don't think you should be mistreated by anyone in any capacity, whether it's your boss, your client, whatever it is. I think it's okay to say no.
There's a great old line of, when someone shows you who they are, believe them, right? I'd say it all the time. Everyone in this room, everyone in the real estate business has the opportunity to completely screw me over once. And I've been able to do an extraordinary amount of very quick deals where you just kind of trust fall, but run your diligence, make sure you ask people and get references, but go, great, yeah, let's do it. And a handshake works, and let's go make this happen. And if someone is untoward or doesn't follow through with what they said, you have a very awkward conversation, which we all have in our careers. And I go, and just, I'm unfortunately like not available anymore. It is the most economic way. There's this great old movie called A Bronx Tale with, De Niro is like the bus driver dad in the Bronx, and his kid's fallen in with, the wrong crowd. But this great lesson from it, sees a guy down the street and he starts chasing him. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, that guy owes me $20. He's like, stop. You just paid $20 to never have to deal with that guy ever again. Do you know how much time you're going to save not having to mess with him? Like, let him go. That is a lesson that, again, I'm still learning. There's times that I don't, and then we've all been there. But teaching people how to treat you, believing people when they kind of show who they are, I think those are common threads. So you guys have climbed through the business. You've played defense. You've gotten to where you are. You've had breakthrough moments. You are where you are today. How do you maintain that? What do you do on a daily basis? What are some routines or best practices? What are tips and tricks that you would share that make you the best-in-class professionals you are?
I want to just back up for 1 second on the landlord-tenant thing. They also can be the greatest in the world. I have a few in the room that told me they're coming here. Like, let's go to dinner after.
We're not talking about anyone here. Everyone here is great. We love everyone.
No, but I am actually saying it because it's part of like the lessons of life. Like,
of course.
The standing up for yourself and all that, and then you can become really good friends, and your best friends can become the landlord or the tenant. So I just want to make sure I point that out, because there are some people in this room that I love so much, and there's others out there that they have become true friends, but those are the good people. And like you were starting to say, if someone's a good person, they probably were that way their whole life, and they probably will always be. And if they're a bad person, people in the world know that they're good or bad, right? It's human nature. It doesn't have to be business. So anyway, what was the question I'm supposed to answer?
Routines. What do you do today?
Sure.
What's day in the life?
So my day in the life is almost a reality show without being one. Like it's every day is different. Calendar is different. Running around town. With what I do, I don't sit at a desk. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but my car is my office, and I'm running around from Malibu, a place that I love very much, West Hollywood area where I live, Beverly Hills. Sometimes downtown, can be anywhere, but it's zigzagging around all day. I usually pull over and check messages, emails. Sometimes I check emails while I'm driving. Hopefully not anytime after this. I'm trying to get better at it, but no, I really do pull over, check messages, calls and whatnot, and zigzag around town. It's just what I do in my particular business, but it's never changed in the 20 some years I've been doing this. And there's a lot of other things that I did 20 some years ago that I still do. And I don't ever want to feel so big that I don't have to do it anymore. I like to, it's like, are you nice to the waiter? Yeah, the waiters are actually the best people in the room. I just like to be that person. And this is not forever. This is a lucky dream if you think about it, just living in LA and working here and all the things we do. So I kind of try to be as humble as possible about it, because it can change at any moment.
Marineh, what are some best practices you still do every day?
I would say I surround myself with people who are smarter than I am. So I hire people who there's no point in hiring more of me, because I can already do what I can do. So I hire people who are smarter than me, I trust people who are experts in their disciplines. I don't try to, think over people. I also am a huge proponent of playing up. If you surround yourself with people at your level, you're going to stay at your level. So I would say challenge yourself by playing up, talking to people who know more than you, because then that's the only way you're going to learn. So that's one thing. And just being grateful and kind to people, I think, is a very big, powerful thing. Listening to people's ideas, not being dismissive, I think that goes a long way. And that's kind of it. Just if you're decent, I think, to Jay's point, if you're a nice person, you attract nice people. And I'm very transparent. I would say in real estate, you kind of have to be, because at the end of the day, the common goal is to get a deal done, right? In real estate. So no one's out to outwit someone. Everyone wants a win-win situation. So I just think, be transparent. If there's bad news, give it to the person. No one likes to be surprised. So just be forthcoming. And I think generally you can work through a lot if you just kind of, show your cards, not negotiations, but show your cards and just say, hey, I made a mistake. This isn't going to work. Let's make it work.
I think what's really hard, I find, is spending time focused on the right things. I think it's so hard. It's like from the time that I wake up in the morning, I'm sure everyone's the same. I was like, I'm already checking my phone. I've already got 100 things. It's almost like, it's just like, I got a deal. I got an idea. I got this. It's like constant. It's like a flood of ideas, that people are kind of throwing at you. And if you chased every one of those down, it's just like it's 1,000 rabbit holes, and it's just you end your whole day and achieve nothing. And I have days like that where I could like look at my whole calendar and it was just like a bunch of meetings, and you're like, what the hell happened today? What was that even about? And then you have other days where you're like, okay, like shut it all down. Like, okay, this is interesting. This is the only thing I want to do. I'm going to get on a plane to go see this. I'm going to go spend time with this person. And like those are amazing days. And it's like trying to get the mix right, I think, is really hard.
And so then, final question, we will open up to Q&A after this. So if you have thoughts, just get them collected. Josh, you just started a new business. So what does the next 5 years hold for each of you? What do you do now? How do you kind of continue to progress and grow and expand on the achievements you've already secured?
Yeah, this is really, I'm very excited. It's actually funny when I agreed to be on this panel. So they said, can you send us a bio so that Bill can read it out? And I was like, wait, hold please, my bio's about to change. So because I had the same job. I was basically CIO at my old company, and then just as of a few weeks ago, we all left the old company and spun out, and now we do it, for a mixture of ourselves and great partners that are behind us. And it's super exciting, and it's in theory the same job, but it's like much more motivating, and it really gets me fired up. And so hopefully the next 5 years is taking what we've been doing for a little while, but just taking it to an absolute next level, and I really can't wait.
Marineh, where do you see yourself? What are the next steps?
So I would say understanding the company's succession plan. It's super important if you choose to work for large corporations, understanding where you fall within the succession plan. So every year, I meet with whoever my supervisor is and ask, where do I fit into the next, phase? I'm actually hoping to go into more of the operations and franchising side of the company. McDonald's is basically a real estate company in and of itself anyway, so you're always touching the real estate component, but I'd like to be on the franchise and operations side, so that's kind of the goal for me.
I think I just want to continue to do what I've been doing, and even though that's a weird goal to have, it is a goal because I've been doing it for 20 plus years, and to keep up with all the things happening and all the younger people out there that want to take a piece of your business. I'm fighting every day. I don't take a day for granted. I don't stop. And I just want to continue to live the life I've been living for the next 5 years and beyond that.
That's awesome. Well,
Very, very zen. I like that.
Let's go. This is self-actualization. So want to open up to the audience. If you have a question, I think there may be mics going through the crowd. Raise your hand and we'll shout you out. Gentleman over here.
Sorry, which one of you? Oh, there we go.
You guys kind of touched on '08, and I was just wondering, like other times, whether the market's down or a deal falls through or something just doesn't go as planned, how do you kind of pick yourself back up and bounce back and come back stronger from it?
I'm so moody. I do not have a good answer. I'll just tell you, maybe you just have to be at peace and know yourself. Like, I find that a deal-based business is like the ups and downs are just tremendous, right? And I don't know if this is good or bad, but like I've kind of gotten to the point where until the ink is dry, I don't believe this thing is happening. I don't know if you're the same. It's like it's right, but I will say that there are moments where you kind of get over the hump and you're like, I think this thing is going to actually happen, and you allow yourself to believe. That is the dangerous moment.
Danger zone.
Right? So.
For me, the real life example of that is 2020 is COVID. I I usually do 100 deals a year. I did one lease, and I don't know if I did anything else. My entire year was spent negotiating rent reduction for tenants, and I must have done, I'm telling you, 300 for helping. You don't make $1. Every one of them was different. Every single one was 3 months free, one was 2 years free, one didn't want to pay. It went on and on. And all I could say to myself and my team at the time was, take names. Take names this year. It will come back. And you know something? 2 years later, all of a sudden things went crazy and luxury brands are the best ever and all these companies. I mean, 2020, maybe 1 and 2 was insane. Now we're getting back into a weird place again because interest rates are high and we could go on and on. But the point is, 2020 as an example, felt like the world was ending. There was a time where it really did. And I think it's just hold strong and take it as an opportunity to learn, grow, do research, go on Google, do whatever you can, and just take names and own it. And it will come back around if you focus and you believe.
The other thing I'll add is if there was utility to getting really ticked off when something went away, like I'd get mad whenever things didn't go my way. I'd be like, okay, this is worth doing. It's not, right? And that's the challenge, especially in, Jay and I are in this daily transactional business where that is our livelihood. For me, I started developing this kind of blended average probabilistic view of the world of like, to Josh's point, like, oh, the ink's dry, 98%. It's probably going to happen because I've seen, wild things. Everyone ends up with a story. I think having that kind of soft gaze on what's coming and never really getting too high or too low, just kind of staying steady, it's very difficult because every one of us has done that mental math of, okay, if this thing happens, then this is what that means to me. And let me go and really think through, what I'm going to do with, that fictitious outcome. You learn that enough of those are mirages. Like the crash is not worth the high of it. You stay steady, right? And you just keep making the very best decision you can.
And I think being able to pivot and be agile. I'll give an example. In California, developers are not doing very well just because of the interest rates, and we're doing leases with developers who can't perform, right? So at that point, you think, okay, I don't want to lose this deal. What do I do? So we pivot and we say, how about I buy it from you? Then you have the capital to do what you want. I will even buy it from you at a McDonald's cap rate, which is usually insane. I prefer to purchase, and you prefer the money because you don't have it. So I just think thinking about how you can apply a different method to an existing situation, there's a lot of flexibility or creativity. Again, if there's not enough inventory in the market, we go to a auto body shop that is a corner piece and say, I'll pay you $2 million for this. And chances are that mom and pop owned auto body shop will take your $2 million, move out. So I just think you just need to be creative and kind of think about other scenarios, because it's easy to get lost in the COVID world and in the 2008 world, but you have to make a livelihood. So you just kind of have to figure out how to do it.
Just keep swimming. There's a gentleman over here. There we go.
Thank you all for your great words. Marineh, I had a question for you. I've been hearing either rumors or rumblings about fast food chains that are going bankrupt or closing, and I don't know if that's to the lower economic demographic. I'm curious to know if you've actually heard the same or are experiencing the same.
And
if that's
just as a follow, is it the McBurglar or no? Is he?
Yeah, no, anyone. I mean, I've just been on, and anyway, that's what I've been hearing, and I'm curious to know if you've been seeing that.
I have not, but I'm fortunate enough to work for a company who, through COVID, their profits, were higher than they've ever been, just because, again, their ability to pivot, right? You close down your dining area and realize drive-through is the way to go, and then you take that concept, and now we're trying to roll out drive-through onlys because that's where a majority of our business is coming from. So I don't, you may have heard of the Burger Kings of the world, or I think it just depends on the model the company uses. So Burger King, for instance, is a total franchise model. Franchisees have control over the real estate. In the McDonald's world, we are a corporate guarantor of leases. So, it's a different model. It has more of a safety net. But yes, I have heard of retail in general, but fast food, who are either slowing down because, they've kind of overextended themselves. If they're privately held fast food, QSRs, they're not growing as quickly as they normally would. So I have heard that, and again, we're kind of opportunistic when we hear things like that. When we see things closing down, we'll go and check out the footprint and see if it works for us. But it has been happening, just not for us.
I think we've got time for one, maybe two more.
I believe you were right.
Thank you, by the way, very good panel. This is my name's R.R. Astami with Marcus and Millichap, and this is called How to Rise in Commercial Real Estate, and all of you are very fierce competitors in your arenas. So could you share with the group what are some moments you had to be a differentiator? Jay was talking about fighting for the business, and I really respect that mentality because there's so much happening. Not only there's so many people coming into the business, so technology is disrupting it, and staying relevant and top of mind is key. Not only in acquisitions, not only as a tenant, but also in brokerage. Could you guys share some ways or moments where you did that, so it could give some ideas to some of the people who are trying to rise in commercial real estate as well?
Let me steal this one, and then obviously open up to the panel as well. One of my very first big deals was a recap of this big office portfolio. And my boss came in and he said, okay, I'm putting you on this. I was relatively new producer, and it was 8 million square feet. It's a big deal. And he goes, one thing, you have one job. Keep this client updated every day. I'm very literal. So every day I would send this person a note that said, here's what we said was going to happen today. Here's what happened. Here's who we talked to. Would bold the names of the people that we'd spoken with. This is the general thematic. Here's what we're going to do tomorrow. If you have any questions, call me. And then I did it the next day. Then I did it the next day. It took 18 months. I did it every day. So at our closing thing, I printed out this package this big, and I just threw it on the table. I'm like, when I tell you we're going to dynamically communicate, let me tell you. It is a lesson that I've kept with me. There's not a material transaction I work on where I don't do that, because golden rule, right? If this was your family's business, if this was something that was going to impact you personally, and someone said, I'm on it, I'm going to sell it, or I'm going to finance it, I'm going to lease the space, trust me, it's going to be great. And then they call you back 3 months later and they go, hey, here's the outcome. You go, okay, great. What happened between those two phone calls, and how do I know this is the best outcome? I think about it like a graph of, if I say here's where I think we're going to start and here's where we're going to end up. If I give you a dot plot the whole way, I'm bringing you in with me. I'm demonstrating what I'm doing the whole way through. And then when we arrive at a conclusion, we're at a conclusion that and you go, okay, got it. This was kind of the final small step. For me, working your butt off and dynamically communicating with people, that's my entire life hack, right? That's how I've tried to differentiate my entire career.
I think you got to talk to everyone. It's funny, the people on my team, whenever they've got something that they're saying is true, I'm always like, who'd you talk to? How many people did you talk to? Right? It's you got to, for anything that you need to figure out, there's someone else out there that knows the answer, usually, unless you're I don't know what, a nuclear physicist or something. But for most things that you do, someone knows the answer. You just got to find the right person. You got to just really get yourself out there. And I find that a lot of people these days sometimes struggle with that idea of getting out and having a conversation. It's very easy to send an email. It's very easy to send a text. That's kind of what we've gotten used to. But there's just maybe it's just old school. There's just no replacement for just talking to people, seeing where the conversation goes, and learning the thing that you didn't ask.
I think it's also important to have a solution when you bring up a problem, right? Because if I walk into, an executive's office and I'm like, here's the issue, you're just throwing more work onto them, right? So for your client, if there's an issue or a challenge, have the solution. And it's really cool because then they'll understand that for all intents and purposes, you're them, right? That's the one thing you want to establish. You want to be able to credibly tell your clients, I'm you. I could pick up the phone and talk to your counsel. I could pick up the phone and talk to your lender and tell them verbatim exactly what they would hear from you. I think that's a great way to differentiate yourself, is to make sure that you understand your audience or your client or whoever it is.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I don't want to go on and on about it because of time, but yeah, I kind of second that. you have to. I'll just say the one thing: when you are getting hired or you're trying to get hired, being sincere is a huge part of it. Simple as that.
Put someone up front and one in the back as well. We'll do those two.
Bill, you're incredible. Incredible.
Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we all have the same 24 hours in a day, right? We all have the same time, a ton of cliches. And my question for you guys is, what is the highest leverage activity that you do in the day that gives you the best ROI for your chosen profession, right? Whether that's meetings, whether that's phone calls, whether that's, doing a research. What is the highest leverage activity that you guys do that you feel gives you or has propelled you to where you are?
Great question. For me, well, activity-wise, I try to wake up and do the Stairmaster and treadmill and like work out. I used to play sports my whole life, and I can't think if I don't work out in the morning, so I have to do that. Then the calls and texts and emails just start going crazy. That's how it is. Now, if everyone out there, if there's newcomers in the world, you're trying to find a job, it feels weird to hear someone say, I have thousands of emails all day. But over time, that's what ends up happening. You have to sort through, hopefully, deals, people, asking questions. Maybe you're asking questions, whatever it is. But as you grow your career and you focus on it, you find yourself, you will have a lot to respond to and to deal with. So I don't even know if I personally manage it perfectly now. There's not enough hours in the day. There's really not. When I leave here, I still have a couple hundred emails I didn't get through. I'm going to want to eat. I'm going to want to hang out. It's whatever. It's just the day-to-day life. So getting better at that. I don't even know if there's a way to get better. I just want to go to bed every night having checked every single email and call, and then the next day starts and I'm ready to do it again. So it's very repetitive. It's the way every day is. Some days are better than others.
I had, again, a great mentor in the business. So we're in New York. Meeting cancels. We end up with like 3 hours of uninterrupted time over dinner, right? And I was in, real estate finance, same role, was thinking private equity, was getting some phone calls, was like trying to decide whether I wanted to move to that side of the business. Sat with my boss and walked through, okay, here's what I'm thinking about. I don't want to be this like empty suit. Like, I don't want to just be kind of like, hey, let's like get the gals together and see if we should like go to the show. I wanted people to hire me because I was the best. I wanted to be competent. I always had that drive of I really, really wanted to have just command of what I was doing. But I didn't want to be insincere. And I had this mental space where I was like, so I have to stay in this little box if I'm doing this job, because otherwise, like, that's not me. My mentor and former boss, who's an incredible person, made me feel like the dumbest dude in the world that night. He's like, oh, yeah, that's right, because everyone else who decided to spend their entire life doing exactly what you do, you don't have anything in common with them. Like, you wouldn't actually authentically be friends with anyone else who decided that they love buildings and real estate and this nerdy thing that we all sit in the Dorchestra and cheer about. Like, they wouldn't actually be your friend. And I was like, he's like, because you're special, right? You're the only one who has like these other things in your life. I was like, no. He's like, yeah, look, build your life around this and lean into people and really show up in an authentic way. And if someone's a jerk, don't hang out with them. And if you've got to hang out with them, like, schedule a 30-minute meeting and tell them when you walk in that you're going to leave in 30 minutes and like do what you need to do and go. But like, you have lunch with somebody and they're really cool, be like, hey, let's go grab a drink sometime. You go out for drinks, go, hey, let's go, and we're having people over this weekend, or we're going to a game, or we're going to go work out. One of the things that I did when I moved to LA, we started what we called old man basketball. I made some of my very best friends were on Saturdays. We'd go and we'd play basketball at Jocelyn Park in South Santa Monica. And some of my very best friends came out of that. I've done unbelievable amounts of business with some of these people, but it wasn't surreptitious. I wasn't trying to trick them or play some long con. If I was, it kind of worked. But we helped each other. right? We grew in the business together. You're having conversations about relationships and kids and their lives and their careers and what should we do here. You have that level of a relationship with somebody. Is it a pitch? Like, is it a presentation? Is there really a discussion? It's like you're already there. So like the highest return on investment that I have in my day is like spending my time, living my life with people that have all decided to pursue the same thing we have. That's fun. That makes it fulfilling. That makes it sustainable. I'm going to brag on Jay because like Jay's like, oh yeah, one of my friends is here. We're going to get dinner after this. It's not Jay networking, right? He's not doing that. That's out of habit because the most successful people I've met and tried to emulate in this business, they're not playing it. It's not halftime. This is what we've all decided we want to do with our lives. I think we had one more question in the back.
Hi, I'm Yvonne. I represent Vogue from Condé Nast. I have a question for Jay Luchs. Since you represented LVMH buying the Brooks Brothers stores on Rodeo Drive, and as we can see that lots of the Rodeo stores are being owned by fashion brands, fashion houses, Chanel, Hermès, LVMH, that caused some of the discomfort from the vendors, from the neighbor and the residents, and some of the small boutiques and the smaller investors. What's your take on that? And also, how do you voice those opinions to your bigger investors like LVMH?
Thank you for the question. And I'm not speaking on behalf of them or anyone, right? They're a wonderful client, and I don't make decisions for them. But when I get asked to do things, I go for it on their behalf. What you're saying, in my opinion, I don't particularly agree with it, but I'll tell you why in the nicest way I can. Rodeo Drive has been a luxury street growing and growing over time. And it's not a street where you have the salad place or the ice cream shop. But if you go to Cannon Drive 2 blocks over, which is a 2-minute walk, you do have that. When you go to Beverly Drive 1 block over, you have contemporary fashion brands and restaurants. Erewhon opened there this year, and if anyone drives by and sees what's going on there, I mean, it's just the most incredible thing possible. It's part of LA culture at this point because, like, where are these people coming from? They were never here. Rodeo Drive are luxury brands. So there are other streets in the world. There's Madison Avenue, Fifth Avenue, Miami Design District, Bal Harbour Mall. You can go on, and then you can go to Paris and London and choose the areas. But every major city does seem to have a luxury row. In London, you don't see the salad shop getting kicked out next to these brands you're talking about. So I just think that there's a place for all of what you're saying. I will say there's a soft spot in my heart for local companies that get pushed out. But what people don't realize, I always hear someone say, they push them out. Well, who's they? Partly they is the economy, the internet, social media, like everything that's changed the world. Even if the rent was free, they have to pay now minimum wage, and they have to pay all the other things that go along with running a business. So it's a different time now, and I think that all these different streets have a place of their own. I happen to be a food lover. I go to Lily's in Malibu almost every weekend to get a burrito. I go to Brentwood Country Mart to Ready Chick. It's been there 65 years to get my barbecue chicken fries and a Coke, which I shouldn't be having, but I do. Point is, if anyone messes with those places, I'll be at Dantana's afterwards probably tonight. I don't want anyone messing with my places, so I understand what you're saying, but anyway, there's different streets and places for different businesses.
Amen. So I want to thank our panelists. They were extraordinary.